Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I just want to say something quickly about Candace Owens interviewing Norman Finkelstein and how there's this apparent conflict between Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire. I've talked before about how the Daily Wire is or was originally financed by a man who belongs to a very strange Christian sect. And I've said before that Ben Shapiro is a counterfeit Orthodox Jew. He belongs to an organization that is supported by a very strange Christian sect and is affiliated with, what's his name? Dennis Prager, who is also kind of a Jew, kind of a Christian. And in my opinion, this apparent conflict between this performed conflict, I should say, between Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro. We have to assume it's a performed conflict until now because she hasn't been fired and she hasn't quit. They just want to bring in a Muslim audience. Andrew Tate has showed that you can bring in a Muslim audience if you entertain opinions that are popular with Muslims. I wouldn't be surprised if Candace Owens is having discussions with her advisors about how seriously she should consider publicly reverting to Islam or flirting with the possibility of reverting to Islam just as a business strategy. Keep in mind that what I've been saying all along, that there are strong factions within the OCGFC that want to see Zionism over and that are in fact on board with the what appears to be the BlackRock Mohammed bin Salman program for the Middle East. So Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, and the Daily Wire are conscious of this fact. They have noticed this fact, I would expect. They've picked up the scent that there are factions in the OCGFC that have turned against Israel, that have turned against Zionism, and that it may not be a viable business strategy going forward to be so completely, radically, rabidly pro-Zionist and pro-genocide. But they still want to be able to appeal to the rabidly racist, genocidal market that does exist particularly in the right wing and among Christian right wing evangelicals. So the fact that she talked to Norman Finkelstein indicates to me the same thing that is indicated when CNN starts reporting about Israeli war crimes, when BBC starts reporting about Israeli war crimes and Israeli atrocities and Israeli extremism and the extremism of Zionism, the extremism of Netanyahu. They can sense that there's a change in the direction that the wind is blowing, and they want to cover all bases just in case it blows this way or it blows that way. They want to have all bases covered. And this is a significant change. There used to be only one way that the wind was blowing. Now there's a conflict in which way the wind is blowing. And you know what happens when wind is coming from one direction and wind is coming from another direction, why you might end up having a tornado. And that gets everyone confused and no one's quite sure which way it's going to go. But to me, the strongest indications are that the more powerful elements and the more powerful factions within the OCGFC, which, as I've said before, appears to me to be the more global-oriented owners and controllers of global financialized capital, more than the Western-oriented owners and controllers of global financialized capital. And it's the Western-oriented ones that tend to benefit more from supporting Israel and supporting Zionism and supporting genocide and supporting war crimes. The more globally oriented factions of the owners and controllers of global financialized capital have more at stake and have a greater interest in a stable Middle East and in a stable Arab world, and have more at stake and have more interest in the end of Zionism, the end of Zionist extremism, and an international peace agreement brokered not by the U.S. but by international players, particularly by China, with China and probably Saudi Arabia doing the heavy lifting on mediation. This is what I think the more globally oriented owners and controllers of global financialized capital are interested in seeing happen. And in my opinion, they can make that happen. And that's what we're seeing happen. And that's why cynical opportunists and opinion capitalists, pundit capitalists like Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens and the Daily Wire and these types of outlets are trying to consider all possibilities, knowing that it could go this way or it could go that way, so we need to cover all bases. So it's entirely possible that Candace Owens might be considering reverting to Islam just for the sake of keeping an audience or building an audience or making sure that the Daily Wire can even survive after the end of Zionism. Because at the end of the day, even the right-wing Christian evangelists, they're only Zionists because they hate Jews. So once Zionism is over, they don't have to pretend like they love Jews anymore and then go right back to hating Jews and being anti-Semitic. And I think that that will work for Candace Owens. Ben Shapiro may not have a career, and he might end up having to convert to Christianity. Those are my thoughts on the otherwise rather strange fact that Norman Finkelstein has been interviewed by Candace Owens and by Jordan Peterson's daughter. Jordan Peterson, who is the advocate of genocide. And his own daughter also interviewed Finkelstein and gave him a platform to her audience, and her audience is going to be similar to her father's audience and similar to the Daily Wire's audience and similar to Dennis Prager's audience. So they are letting those people know that there is another side, and maybe you should consider that other side of the issue, of the Palestine-Israel issue, and probably giving them some kind of a go-ahead that it's okay for you to be anti-Semitic. Openly. You don't have to cover it up with Christian Zionism. You can just be openly anti-Semitic like you used to be. I'm telling you, these are very cynical people, very opportunistic people, very immoral and unethical people and unprincipled people across the board. Obviously, not talking about Norman Finkelstein. Jazakumullahu khairan wa assalamu alaikum.